Welcome to Inside Racing. Jim Johnson's recent induction into the Australian Racing Hall of Fame was widely acknowledged within the industry. The highly respected jockey rode 2,158 winners during a busy 30-year career, and he has 3 Melbourne Cup trophies among his souvenirs. Now a sprightly 80, Jim lives quietly in Melbourne and was happy to reminisce a little when I caught up with him at Cup time. Well, Jim Johnson, I don't get to interview too many Hall of Famers. Congratulations on attaining racing's greatest award.
Thank you very much for that. It's an honour. I didn't have much to say the other night when I got in there because it's very exciting. It's a great thing to have happen to you. Doesn't happen to too many, and it's like winning another Melbourne Cup, I told them.
That makes 4. Jim, you were just 4 years old when your dad, Alf Johnson, lost his life in a race fall at Oakbank in the early 1930s. Now, you were too young to understand the significance of that tragedy, but I'm sure you were aware of the sadness around you at the time.
Oh, yes, it's... I was too young to really know what it was all about, and yeah.
Your father's death really gave you enough reason to abandon any thoughts of becoming a jockey.
Yes, I suppose so, but I mean, a kid growing up, you don't know what you're going to be or what you want to do, you know, when you're growing up, and but I was so small, there was nothing else I could do. I always dreamed that I was going to be a motor mechanic. Well, you know, I mean, now we're going way back in the 1930s growing up, you know, but I always thought, oh, I'm going to be a motor mechanic. I don't know why. When I was 15, we were living in Perth again, and I came back to Adelaide to visit my grandmother for a trip, and one of the trainers that lived not far down the road from her was going past, and he heard that I was there, I don't know how, and he called in and wanted to know if I'd like to be to come down the stable and try out the horses.
Right.
And you don't want to know, I went down there for a fortnight and fell in love with one of the horses, and that's what made me a jockey.
And you spent your entire apprenticeship with that particular trainer, Stan Chapman.
Yes, I was there with him for 6 years, and I done all right in my apprenticeship. I wrote out my allowance, and I wasn't a leading apprentice or anything, but I wrote out my allowance and got through with enough winners to show that I could do something with them.
You know, as far back as 1962, your talents were recognised by the late Colin Hayes, and it just so happens that your very first Group 1 winner was Cheong Sam in the Adelaide Cup, trained by Colin Hayes.
Yes, that was a good day. Billy Pies used to do all his riding, but Bill was too heavy and couldn't ride it, so that was a good pick-up one, that one.
You know, Jim, you've got to thank Les Coles for giving you the opportunity to win the first of your 3 Melbourne Cups on Gaddam Gaddam. Les rode the horse in the Moonee Valley Cup. He went a bit disappointingly. Les jumped off and you jumped on.
Well, that horse, he pulled my arms out from the time we got going until the time we straightened for home, and then I could let him go. But, you know, I've never had a horse pull so hard in all the rides that I had, and he just pulled me out of the saddle all the way. And when I straightened up for home, that was the only time I could let him go.
Jim, in 1961, you became associated with one of the fastest horses you ever rode, certainly the fastest 2-year-old filly. Her name was Proud Miss, and she established an Australian record of 10 straight wins.
Yes, she wasn't very big. She was only just over 15 hands, but she had a backside so she was strong. She was one of the quickest horses I've ever ridden in all the horses that I rode. When the gates opened, she was out and gone, or otherwise, if somebody wanted to lead you, you could let them lead. But she had so much pace, it wasn't very often that she got headed. And yeah, 10 straight, and she was great. The first one she had, one that was the apprentice rode her, but then I got on her for the rest of them, and they were a thrill.
That broke
Until we got to the
sequence.
golden slipper, unfortunately,
birthday
and
card, 62.
we got beat in that one.
You'd won 4 Adelaide premierships on the trot, and you felt it was time to spread your wings. All you needed was an opportunity, and the man to provide that opportunity was the respected Melbourne trainer Tony Lopes.
Yes, Tony, he wrote me a letter. I came over, I can't remember the horse I come over for, but I had 4 rides, and I finished up riding 4 seconds, got suspended on the day and all, and Tony wrote me a letter. He was there with his owner, the one that I got suspended on, because I bullocked my way out halfway down the straight, and he said, he said, I'd like to get that jockey over here. He said, this is what we need, and Tony didn't have anybody riding for him at that time. And so that's how I become to come over for Tony Lopes.
You rode a horse called Royal Scott on one occasion for Tony Lopes, and it was a ride that triggered an unexpected response. Now, the manner in which you use the whip earned you the ire of the stewards. The racing press gave it a very big coverage, and I think the RSPCA even got involved at one stage.
Yes, and there was one of the committee men that raced down out of the grandstand and called me a lion tamer. And,
a line tamer?
A lion tamer, he said. And it was a bit upsetting. And so for that committeeman, the next day I got on the TV, and Bill Collins, he said, well, do you want to come in tomorrow and make a statement on that? I said, yes. I said, well, for that committeeman that done that, I said, and of course he said he's nothing but a lion tamer, and I hope he has a fall. And I said, well, for that, for that committeeman, I said, it's one day he might get his wish. I said, but my father was also a jockey and he had a fall. I said, and that was it. He got killed in his race fall.
You rode 2,158 winners and 3 Melbourne Cups, so there wasn't too much wrong with the style. And Higgins told me once, he paid you a great compliment. He said, to watch Jim from behind, he looked to be almost side saddle. He said, but boy, oh boy, was he hard to get past.
Yeah, well, we've always been good mates, old Roy and I took the premiership off him one year. He didn't forgive me for that, but we've always been good mates, and geez, he was a very good rider.
Jockeys around Australia currently are having great difficulty in adapting to the new whip rules. The reforms have continued to change, and currently the jockeys are reasonably satisfied with the most recent ruling of the ARB, and that is the fact that they can use the whip however many times they wish over the last 200 metres. But had these reforms been in vogue in Jimmy Johnson's day, you'd have been paying more fines than most.
Maybe. Well, yes, of course. But I mean, in my days, they were always looking for the vigorous rider. The trainers were always looking for vigorous riders, blokes that were going to ride their horse right out and get them over the line.
Jim, if anything exceeded your talents as a horseman, it was your unshakable integrity. And there is one classic illustration of that. When you were riding for Tony Lopes, he was training a 2-year-old filly called Celtic Twilight, raced by Philippe Ishmael, who was frequently in Melbourne and frequently punting in enormous amounts of money.
Big amounts of money.
One day, as you left the jockey's room to ride Celtic Twilight, you were offered $10,000 to stop her.
Yes, that's quite right. That is true.
Now, you told that gentleman what to do with his $10,000.
Yes, I never had time to tell him much more, but there we are. It's when I was coming out of the jockey's room, and this bloke bustled in and got past other people, and he said, he put it to me, what sort of chance I had. I said, an each-way chance, I suppose. He said, I suppose it would because it's odds on. I said, well, why'd you ask? And then I wasn't getting into any more argument with him, and I went to get out of the jockey's room through the door, and he grabbed me by the arm and he pulled me back. He said, 10,000 on the, yeah, it was dollars then, I think. Mm. Yes, of course. $10,000, he said, that'd be a good day's work. And I tried to pull away from him, and he pulled me back again. He said, nobody else knows. He said, only you and I. He said, there's $10,000 there if you pull it up. And, well, I couldn't get away from him quick enough then.
And you went straight to the birdcage, and you told the trainer and the owner.
That's right. When I got out there, Tony had said to him, well, she's having her first start and all this, you know. And he explained how he thought the horse would win. I said, well, Mr. Ismail, I think the same. I think this little filly can win. I know you've had a lot of money on it. I said, so, and if you want to, I said, go and have more on. But I'm going to tell you, I've just been offered $10,000 to pull it up. Well, Mr. Ismail, he just went white, this sort of thing. And I said, so if you want to go and have more, I said, you go and have it on. I said, because I'm trying. And so... And
you were very relieved when she won.
Oh, yeah, everything went off. No worries, because this silly bugger saying nobody else would know. Oh, I mean, that's ridiculous. If money like that was spread around, everybody would know. Anyway, I was happy. The horses won, and that night coming out of... and in fact, that was the time that Tobin Bronze won his second...
Cox Plate?
Cox Plate.
Same day,
yeah. Mm. So I was real happy then. And but when you come out, it was Saturday night papers we used to get then, and there was big headlines. Yeah. Jockey offered $10,000 to pull it up. So, of course, once I told them, I suppose it would spread then and go everywhere.
Yeah. Like a prairie fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You know, you had to wait 5 years. Fancy that. Before you won your second Melbourne Cup. You were riding an amazing horse and a beautiful looking animal, Rain Lover. He had 8 stone 2, he was a 4-year-old, and he won by a margin that hadn't been seen since Archer's second Melbourne Cup win, 8 lengths.
Right.
Jim, many have said, do you agree or not, that no horse in the world would have beaten him on the day over 2 miles.
Not that day. I mean, he's just sprinted. It was like getting off of one horse and onto a fresh horse, and just sprinting down the straight. You know, when he straightened up for home, and I looked around, I thought, well, nobody else is near me. I'm off, and he sprinted down the straight that day, and. Just like as if he was a sprinter. Yeah. And, well, he's won by 8 lengths. He's won it in record time. So putting all that together, how could have they beaten him on the day?
Yeah. 1 year later, Jim, he lined up again in the Melbourne Cup with 9 kilos more than he had the year before. 9 kilos. Mm-hmm. And he went disappointingly, didn't he, in the McKinnon on the Saturday.
Yes, in the well, what had happened 6 weeks beforehand, he'd picked up a virus, because nobody else knows that he's got the virus, and we give him nearly 2 weeks to get over that. Like, he couldn't have a run, couldn't do anything with him, and so the vets worked on him and got him back, and but I didn't think he'd even get in the cup. You know, that's the way he was going. So he's run 2 very ordinary races, and of course they're blaming the jock then. They always blame the jock, don't they?
Yeah.
And they blame the jock, and I was copping it left, right and centre, and they reckon George Moore was going to come over from Sydney to ride him. And but anyway, luckily, he's got over his virus, and so Cup Day, he's only won by a head this time. He hasn't won by 8 lengths. But that showed how strong a horse he was.
You had a wonderful association through the 1960s with a wonderful horse called Winfro. Now, he raced in 3 states throughout his career: Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. He won a total of 27 races. And I don't know if you're aware, you won 9 times on him. You were the jockey in 1/3 of his wins.
I never got on him until later on in his career. I won 3 Caulfield Stakes, is it? Caulfield. Yes. I won 3 one year after the other.
Yep.
But so the first time I rode him, I didn't ride him again through that 12 months. And then the second time I won on him, that's when I rode him regularly. It was his last.
All of your 9 wins on Winfro were at weight for age.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
Jimmy was a long-striding, free-wheeling sort of a horse. He must have been a lovely rider.
He was a tall. What shall I say? Tall, leggy horse. You know.
Gangly.
Oh, gangly. That's the word. But when you got on him and you just held him together, you knew that when you let him go, when you straighten up for home, he just kept on going, and that's. But he's a big, skinny-looking horse, wasn't he? He wasn't. He wasn't a pretty horse, but
not at all.
No, but he knew how to gallop.
The 1966-67 season was a ripper for you in Melbourne. You won the Melbourne Jockeys Premiership with 63 metropolitan wins, and they ran 18 weight for age races that season, and you won 13 of them. Mr. Higgins was not pleased.
Oh no, but just to have that run, you know, these are things that jockeys dream of, just to get a run like that and to keep you going, and it's marvellous. I don't know how to explain it, really.
Jim, you won 11 races on Tobin Bronze, 10 of them at weight for age. He won 2 Cox Plates and a Caulfield Cup with 9 stone 10. That sealed his greatness for mine. And he didn't have the perfect preparation, did he?
No, he did not. He was sick just leading up to that. He put in a couple of ordinary races, and so there's another horse, another strong champ. He was a champion. He's the most beautifulest looking horse that I ever rode. And
coppery chestnut, wasn't it?
That's right. You didn't have to know anything about horses. When he walked past, everybody just looked at him, and he was such a beautiful horse to look at. And I loved that horse, and in fact, he gets me worked up when I talk about him.
Even this long after the event, yeah. Well, he gave you some unforgettable thrills, including your first trip out of Australia.
Yes.
He was sold to an American donut manufacturer by the name of Rosenberg, who wanted to run him in a few races before sending him to the stud in the USA. And the first assignment for Tobin Bronze in America was the Washington International, 1967. Now, you were retained to ride him. Now, Jim, I'd like to share with viewers to this program that one of the greatest thrills of my early career as a broadcaster was to meet Jimmy Johnson for the first time in the Jockeys room at Laurel in Maryland.
That's
there
right.
You were in the Jockeys room, and who do you think you were chatting with when I walked in? Lester Piggott and Willie Shoemaker.
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah, well, they were Piggott was over there for that, but you know, that's my biggest disappointment in my racing. You see, when he got there, they kept him 2 days at the airfield where we first landed, just loading him on and off. I don't know, it was like a huge overburdened float. 2 days that they kept him at the airport. That was his quarantine.
Yeah.
Just 2 days, and then he went to the track from there, and he was only there 6 days, and then he had to race.
Yeah, he was dehydrated.
Oh,
and he lightened off, hadn't he?
Oh, yeah. And
Looked terrible.
I said to Graham Hegney, his trainer, I said, gee, Graham, I was only there 5 days, and then it was race day.
Yep.
And each day, I said to Graham, I said, gee, if only we had a week or a fortnight, I said, this horse, every day, you could just feel him better every day. And of course, then in the race, he got knocked down in the race and still ran third.
Yeah. But he ran a gallant third, and he wasn't that far away, was he?
Yeah, no, he should have. No, it was only a length and a half. And I mean, that's my biggest disappointment in all my racing. And because, only for the horse. Because I think he won 6 races afterwards when they got him going again over there.
Towards the end of your career, Jim, you took up a contract in Singapore. In fact, you spent the last 4 years of your riding career in Singapore. You won 2 premierships there.
Yeah. Oh, that was good. We, of course, when I took off to Singapore, that was when we was having trouble with our committeeman here that didn't like me, and he done me a good turn anyway. It was because we had a lovely 4 years in Singapore. Then I come back home to Adelaide for another about 9 months, and then that's when I retired.
Jim, looking at the list of good horses you rode, apart from the Tobin Bronzes and the Winfrows and the Rain Lovers, you won races on Contempor. You had a ride on Storm Queen for 1 win. You rode Yangtze, you rode Torto, you rode Samson, and you had 1 ride for 1 win at Group 1 level on Galilee.
Yes, I did. That was the...
2-rack handicap.
The 2-rack handicap. Well, well, there you are. I hadn't ever ridden him before. I hadn't been on his back, and so Higgins had been suspended, I think. That's how I got the ride, and only a mile. And so when he jumped out, I think there was a full field of 20 or something. So when we jumped out and got going, I wasn't going too good. I'd gone a furlong, and I've already dropped out to last and not doing well. So then after another furlong, I thought, gee, there's something wrong with this horse.
He felt terrible.
Oh, shocking. I thought, now, I'm going to pull him up. You know, like he's just not galloping. And when I changed my hold on him, by this time, got down past the 6 and...
He was uncoordinated.
Oh, was he ever. Anyway, as soon as I changed hands, away he went. And then at Caulfield coming down the side then, I thought, hell, is this horse travelling well now? And I started to laugh to myself. I thought, I'm still going to beat these. I went right around the field and won by a length and a half.
Yeah.
So that he must have been one of the best gallopers that I've ever been on.
Now, Jim, you have a son and a daughter who live in Melbourne, and that's the reason you've moved back here, to be close to the family. You're an avid Sky Channel viewer. You miss very few races. That's your Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Sit back and relax and have a little dabble too.
Oh, yes. I go down to Wayne's place. He's not far down the road. And we sit there and we have our couple of little bets. Occasionally we go to the races. Not very often, but occasionally we go. Moonee Valley is very good to me, and they've made me a member each year. And so we enjoy that. And the Cox Plate, I get invited to that. And the ball. So that's the main one for my daughter and I, and we're still enjoying life.
Well, Jim, I can tell you that the punters of that era loved you. It's because they knew that whatever they backed was going to be lifted over the line in those tight finishes.
Well, yes, it's we was always trying, and well, when the bloke offered me the 10 grand, I said, no, we didn't want it that way. We only wanted it the right way.